Welcome to the Militia Gaming community. I'm Trigger, and this is my Carnage Lovers Summit Guide for the Crew 2. Let's go! My goal with these summit guides is to prepare you to earn platinum rewards every single week. That's why I put this video out before the summit goes live. I purchase all of the summit cars and run all of the events beforehand so that you don't have to. I'm not claiming to be the best in the world, but my advice is good for an average player. Alright, let's get into it. First up is the Great Lakes Buoy Smashing event. The absolute best boat for this is the 1414 Demon, and this is the boat that the world record holder uses. The path is very important, so I will show you this entire run, but the buoy smashing takes a tremendous amount of control. Understand that the boat can't really turn unless you're hitting the gas. So you'll notice in my run that I accelerate when I want to turn sharply just after using my brakes. Now my score doesn't look that good, but here's the thing. I don't have a set of score breaker parts, so my score would actually be double what you're seeing on screen if I had that set. It's really important to have that set, and I might need to grind for it this week. My 1414 Demon Pro settings look like this. Admittedly, this next event is not my best category. I will give you advice based on the world record path. Flying upside down is recommended if you can manage to fly close enough to the ground to get the 3.5 multiplier, even if it's just half of the time. It's definitely increasing my score, and as you can see from my run, I was not that close to the ground a lot of the time. The path is to follow the river to the right. So when you spawn in, just turn left and then line it up properly and flip upside down and give it a shot. Past that, I'm not an expert on this yet, so I don't have a lot of advice. Just do your best, and if you can't stay close to the ground flying upside down, I recommend trying it without doing that. The only difference between flying upside down and flying right side up is a 0.5% multiplier that you can gain from flying close to the ground. The max for flying right side up is 3. The max for flying upside down is 3.5. I'm using the same plane as the record holder, the Extra 330 SC, and here are my pro settings. Next up is the Canyonlands Escape. This escape is a tough one. The record holder uses a drag car, however, this method is generally too hard for the average player. I recommend using the Koenigsegg Regera or the Lavoiture Noir. They are much more stable and easier to handle. The path you want to take is quite simple. You will follow this highway and cut across the field and then continue on the highway. The better you are at keeping your speed through the highway turns, the farther you will go. I managed to get a very decent position with my Regera and Nitro Chemist. Make sure you have Nitro Chemist on your hypercar. My Regera Pro settings look like this. The next event is the Queen of Mayhem Demolition Derby. This event is going to be scored by how many points you can score in the Demolition Derby, so grabbing score bonuses and killing other drivers is going to be the fastest way to a high score. I don't anticipate a lot of points on this one, as I am not the best Demolition Derby player. That being said, you should obviously stay away from the arena obstacles, as they can easily throw you off your plan to hit someone. but also they can kill your car just as quickly and cost you 5,000 points. You really need to go an entire run without killing your car. That means grabbing the repair bonuses and all of the points bonuses that you can. My pro settings for the Charger RT Hemi are like this. Next up is To the Big Cow Street Race using the Charger RT Hemi Masked Edition. There are several cuts on this particular race, and I'm going to start with those. At 28%, you're going to cut left on the embankment, go through the checkpoint, and land on the other side to continue. At 54%, you're going to go through that checkpoint, but cut right up the hill to skip the corner. Then when you land, you just continue straight through the next checkpoint and back onto the road. At 68%, you're going to cut right at the checkpoint and go over the hill. It's a really hard cut and your car is kind of too slow to make the jump across, which is usually what happens with faster street cars. But it seems like this is just a little bit faster than taking the street, so I would recommend doing it. At 87%, you're going to cut left across the field and go through the trees on the other side. Just make sure you steer clear of the trees and drive directly towards the next checkpoint pylon and you'll be good to go. The Masked Edition Charger RT Hemi handles a lot like a Demolition Derby car and it takes damage just like a Demolition Derby car. So my advice is to follow the pro settings that I have here. This makes it a little bit more drivable than a Demolition Derby car is. Next up is the Go Against the Flow Jet Sprint with any jet boat. I only have the Proto Leopard, which from my research happens to be the fastest jet sprint boat. Mine is not fully leveled because I haven't spent a ton of time in jet sprint, so I really don't feel comfortable offering a lot of advice here. I do find that in this particular race, it pays to pick a lane or path and just commit to it. I found myself doing better when I wasn't guessing which gap I was going to hit because I mentally committed to a certain path under a bridge or around a turn. My Proto Leopard pro settings look like this. The next event is the 8 Demolition Derby race, but because it's a crossover event, you will need to use a hovercraft. The fastest hovercraft in the game is definitely the Proto Speedster. It is highly recommended to have a set of Nitrochemist parts as you will 100% need your NOS on this event. Now most crossover events like this, you're actually going to be racing regular Demolition Derby AI cars, so this will be super interesting when you come across the middle of the track. The cars might hit you and throw you, I'm not really sure, but it seems like that's going to be a very dangerous obstacle that you're going to have to pay attention to. After testing the Proto Speedster on this course, it's faster to ride the wall and NOS at the end than to cut the turns short. Also, if you're cutting the turns short, you're actually using a lot more NOS than you would if you were riding the wall. Other than that, I really don't have too much advice. It will be important to have patience as this will likely be a point of frustration for this week's summit. My Proto Speedster pro settings are like this. Next up is the Canyon by Night street race using the Beetle Kahaki Edition. This race has a ton of cuts in it, so I will let my full run play here. Just take notice of the percentage as I cut off the road several times. The cuts are fairly obvious if you're paying attention to the minimap. Additionally, after this race, I had to adjust the pro settings for this car as this car loves to understeer like crazy. My new pro settings will be super useful. The cuts that I'm using here are at the following percentages if you want to write them down: 18%, 26%, 32%, 40%, and 58%. My pro settings for the Beetle are like this. And lastly, we have the Jersey City Air Race using the Edge 540 V3. This air race is really straightforward. Like all of the air races, you need to go through the gates in the correct position as fast as you can. There's not a whole lot of advice I can actually offer you here. I would say that Nitrochemist is for sure nice to have, and it will definitely boost your time along with the Tricky Affix if you're good at controlling planes. Tricky will actually refill your NOS when you're doing tricks in the air like barrel rolls. Good luck to everyone in this event. I plan on scoring pretty low for this as my plane is not fully leveled and I do not have the correct set of parts. My pro settings for the Edge 540 are default. And that's it for this one, guys. This is kind of a weird summit. There's not a lot of advice that I can give for this summit. For whatever reason, these events just don't offer a ton of shortcuts, with the exception of course, the street races. However, some of the other events, I'm not fully leveled up, and I will never steer you in the wrong direction. I will always be honest with you and tell you when I don't think that my advice will work. That being said, if you do have any questions about this summit guide, you can always hit me up on Instagram, Twitter, or you can join the Discord. We have a link in the description down below. My DMs are always open, guys. Welcome anytime. Thank you so much for watching. Shout out to all the Militia subs. I will catch you on the next one. Trigger out.